This is CBC Nova Scotia News.
Tonight, rising demand. Food bank use in Nova Scotia hits a new peak.
Yarmouth recount. Liberal leader Zach Churchill remains defeated after another tally of the votes.
And Celtic Colours controversy. The society that runs the Cape Breton event fires its board of directors.
Some flurries mixed with some light icy mix as we work into Tuesday before a change to showers. Some steadier rain and gustier winds coming later in the week. Your full forecast is coming up.
Good evening. As the cost of living in this province continues to rise, more people are relying on food banks.
Feed Nova Scotia has seen a huge spike in Nova Scotians accessing support from their food banks over the past 3 years.
As Selena Alders tells us, it's reporting a nearly 70% increase since 2021.
This past summer alone, over 36,000 people received support for groceries from Feed Nova Scotia. That's about 3.5% of the province's population. Since 2021, the organization has seen a 68% increase in demand.
According to the organization's most recent quarterly report, newcomers and renters are disproportionately affected by food insecurity. The report found that 28.4% of households using food banks include people who've been living in Canada for less than 10 years. Abdul Razak Kazizada, a lawyer back home in Afghanistan, is one of those people.
Here I should start from the beginning. It's very difficult because I support my family, I want to work, I want to find a job.
Rosa Mendoza from El Salvador lives here with her daughter and also relies on food banks.
Sometimes the money is not, the cost for food, something is not available for buy something. Yeah, that is the reason how a lot of people use the food bank.
There's so many immigrants now, new Canadians coming into this area, that it's increased the demand. And then with rent prices up so high, it's just, the demand has been great.
Renters also make up a large portion of Feed Nova Scotia's clients, over 71% this quarter. Crystal Ladder lives in public housing and still finds it hard to afford both rent and groceries for her family of 6.
If I go to the superstore or Walmart, I'm paying about $700-800 just for one big cart, and that's with meats and food, like just veggies and whatever we get here.
And how long would that typically last you?
Not even 2 weeks.
A spokesperson for the Department of Community Services told CBC in an email that the province has taken steps to address affordability in Nova Scotia. She says the department recently gave Feed Nova Scotia $2 million in funding and over $16 million throughout 2024 to organizations that support Nova Scotians experiencing food insecurity. Selena Alders, CBC News, Halifax.
Nova Scotia Health has opened its first transitional health centre. The West Bedford Transitional Health will provide beds for 68 patients, the first to arrive tomorrow. The centre will house patients currently in acute care beds who no longer need that level of care but aren't ready to go home. The centre will be led by a team of nurse practitioners with visiting physician support. It'll be staffed mainly by Shannock's care workers, along with nurses, physiotherapists, and rehab care providers.
On call this weekend, I'm working this weekend. I can tell you out of my list of patients there are going to be several that do not need to be in hospital, but they still need some time. They still may need patient teaching. They still may need a bit more mobility before they can go home. And if we send patients home straight out of acute care too quickly, there's a high risk they're going to decompensate and have to come back in.
An adjacent building will open in 2026 and provide similar care to 110 more patients.
Liberal leader Zach Churchill remains defeated in the electoral district of Yarmouth. A judicial recount today confirmed PC Nick Hilton's win. Michael Gorman has the story.
The Liberal campaign said going into this that they didn't expect the recount to change the overall result. They were proved correct. Volunteers spent about 5 hours going over the ballots again in this Yarmouth courtroom. In the end, however, there was little change. Nick Hilton's vote total remained the same at 3,663, while Zach Churchill's went down to a total of 3,645. Hilton says he only started getting nervous about the process in the final hours today, but now he's looking forward to what happens next.
And I've participated in other levels of government, but this is clearly going to be the next level, and excited to represent Yarmouth and the voters here and the residents here, and I can't thank them enough for their support throughout the last month.
Nick Hilton will now move on to Halifax tomorrow, where he will be part of the MLA swearing-in ceremony at Province House. As for Zach Churchill, the Liberals say there will be an update about his political future tomorrow in Halifax as well. Michael Gorman, CBC News, Yarmouth.
Prime Minister Justin Trudeau was in Halifax today. He met with Premier Tim Houston and Federal Housing Minister Sean Fraser to talk about a number of issues, including affordability. This was the first meeting between the two since Houston's resounding re-election in November, after a campaign in part on the idea of putting together a strong team to stand up to Ottawa. Trudeau also spoke today to the Halifax Chamber of Commerce.
All right, let's check in with Ryan Snoddon now from the CBC Weather Centre.
It warmed up a bit today.
Yeah, it did. Temperatures still kind of around the freezing mark, but the sun always helps, right? After what was a pretty messy Sunday. And yeah, hopefully everybody made it through that first kind of widespread shot of snow there yesterday. How about the temperatures tomorrow? We're going to be bumping up into the 2, 3, 4, even 5 range by the end of the day in through the south and west. Temperatures creeping up in the north, just above the freezing mark. Cape Breton as well will eventually get there, and it's thanks to this warm frontal boundary, which we'll track in tonight. Some very light precipitation with this, flurries mixed with some patchy ice pellets and freezing drizzle possible, an eventual change over to some showers into Tuesday afternoon for the south and west. That icy mix possible even into Tuesday evening for the northeast before those temperatures do rise. Now, this is again just a very small appetizer with the full meal deal coming in Wednesday afternoon. Another shot here of showers, and then the final course of this system will be, yes, a solid shot of not only rain, but some very gusty winds on Thursday, Wednesday night, in fact, into Thursday morning. And this one, the winds will really be howling from the south. We'll walk you through it with your full forecast timeline in 7-day coming up in a few minutes.
Okay, Ryan, thanks for that.
Thank you.
Well, calls for a sober second look at sexual assault cases in the province have grown in recent years. Many police forces in Canada, including in New Brunswick, have adopted a civilian oversight model. But Halifax police say they can't use it because of privacy issues. Haley Ryan explains.
Some police forces in New Brunswick say a civilian oversight model for certain sex assault cases is improving their service. But Halifax police say they can't use the nationally recognized model, which one lawyer says is frustrating. The Kennebecasis Regional Police Force began using the Violence Against Women Advocate Case Review model called VACR about 4 years ago. It has civilian experts review every sex assault where charges haven't been laid. They can suggest improvements or recommend if a file should be reopened.
And I do think that it's, a great step towards transparency. These people are reading a police file. Now, they're sworn to secrecy and confidentiality, but they're actually reading a police file. We're just looking to get better. We have nothing to hide.
The St. John Police Force also uses the model. They say any chance to improve the quality of what they do is a good thing. But Halifax Regional Police say they can't use the model due to privacy concerns connected to current legislation. They didn't elaborate on exactly what those concerns were.
So in the end, we're kind of left to speculate, which is really unfortunate. I'd say overall that it reduces public confidence in the board and the board's ability to effectively govern the largest police force in Atlantic Canada.
Instead, the city's police board approved the force's suggestion to send cases to an RCMP review committee. There, civilian experts review a random sample of cases from across Nova Scotia that didn't lead to charges. The police board chair says Halifax police will take next year to explore whether the RCMP's committee is the right choice, but no final decisions have been made.
I think it's best for the women and people, I should say in general, who are experiencing sexual violence have something here that actually meets their needs.
Halifax police will return with an update on the pilot in about 6 months. Haley Ryan, CBC News, Halifax.
Members of the society that runs Cape Breton's Celtic Colours International Festival have fired their entire board of directors, citing volunteer complaints, a deteriorating visitor experience, and senior staff resignations. The CBC's Kyle Moore has that story.
Celtic Colours attracts people from around the world each year that come to see the changing of the leaves and listen to the music. But this past weekend, its members were singing a different tune, letting go of their board of directors.
You have to have, good, strong board management that listens to the membership and responds, because ultimately it's the membership that owns the society.
Former board chair and longtime volunteer Jacqueline Scott says the problems go back 3 years. One employee who resigned last year told CBC the festival office had lately become toxic, and the board simply refused to take serious steps to fix things.
Some of us had been working for almost a year with the board of the organization to say maybe we need some refresh here. There's some things that are concerning people, and there need to be some changes. But those didn't happen.
The Celtic Colours Festival Society appoints the board that runs the overall event. According to a document handed out to society members, venues were not being looked after properly, with some having little or no notice of changes in their bookings. It also said concert goers were complaining about some of the operations. 5 senior staff have resigned, including 3 since the end of this year's festival in October.
I want to see the board disbanded immediately. They're still claiming power, apparently, for what I'm being told, even though they've been voted as to be dismissed. They need to be dismissed.
JP Cormier has played at every Celtic Colours festival since its inception. He says he's noticed the problems lately and wants the event to get back to its roots.
When it was fresh, new, exciting, all about music, not about politics, not about money, not about any of those things.
The board chair of Celtic Colours says the society didn't have the right to call a meeting, and he's not accepting their motion. He says the board will hold their own meeting in January. Kyle Moore, CBC News, Sydney.
Syrians living in our region are celebrating the fall of the Assad government. The regime collapsed over the weekend following to an offensive that seized control of the capital city of Damascus, ending the Assad family's 50-year-long rule over the country. It's led to hope for people who came to Canada to flee the turmoil in Syria, including the CEO and founder of the Nova Scotia-based Peace by Chocolate.
As Syria starts to build a new chapter, we dream of a future that, where fear is gone, where families can thrive and where children can dream without limits, and where every piece of the country's shattered past comes together to build something very stronger. So I'm extremely excited about the future, and I'm praying for stability and praying for peace for my home country.
The Kremlin is confirming Russia has granted asylum to the ousted Syrian president and his family.
Weeks of voluntary and mandatory water usage restrictions in the Dartmouth area have finally come to an end. Recent rainfall has resupplied the water level on Lake Major, which is the main source of water for thousands of customers. They had been told to limit their usage in various ways, but as of this morning, Halifax Water has lifted all restrictions.
Well, a homeowner in Fall River is taking holiday decorating to the next level. Sean Anderson has turned his home into an unforgettable light and sound show.
More than 30,000 LED lights are automated to Christmas songs that are played on a special radio frequency. That's so you can tune in from your car and experience it all without braving the cold. Have a look.
Is this our logo?
Pretty cool.
I've got up my game.
Another holiday site. This is in Waterville. Ryan's up next with this full weather forecast. We're back after the break.
Okay, yes, after yesterday, it was nice to see the sun today, wasn't it?
I know, it melted some of that ice that was down.
Some of it,
Yeah.
but boy, it was like a skating rink this
Yeah.
morning in some spots. And of course, yesterday's mess with the snow and changing to rain and so much, slush. And then, of course, the water standing and then the freeze up. And, we're going to repeat that process later this week with the rain that's coming and then a freeze up for Thursday night into Friday. That's going to be one of the focuses this week. Let's first start with our high temperatures today. And you can see we did creep above the freezing mark along the Atlantic coastline. Not so much for the northern parts of the province. -4 the high in Amherst today. Did get to 2 on the plus side for Shuttlecamp and Ingonish Beach, and Sydney at 3 on the plus side today. You can see temperatures right now at and below the freezing mark, -7 in Amherst, -5 in Truro. And as we look at the satellite radar picture, you can already see that cloud starting to creep its way into the province from southwest to northeast. And this is the low that's working its way into the Great Lakes. That's been bringing some snow and now a change to rain for them. And we're going to repeat this process here with that little bit of a light dusting, some flurries, some icy mix on the leading edge of this, but a change over to showers for us. Now the rain, it's just gathering steam here. This is the frontal boundary, which is going to be working its way up and along the coast and then in for us. Now, it's going to be a quick moving system, so we won't be getting as much rain as they're going to be getting, say, in northeast parts of the U.S. from this. And how about the cold air? Excuse me. Really digging in. Denver just at 1, Calgary at 2, Regina at -7, Winnipeg at -9. It's looking a lot like, well, December, isn't it? 8 degrees in Vancouver right now, and you can see that warmest of air squeezed off to the south. So fine in Florida. Now, as we look at the temperatures for tonight, we're going to be seeing, temps ticking down into the -3, -4 range, but then up again into the 2-3 a.m. hour for the Tri-County area on the leading edge of that precipitation. So you folks will see your overnight lows this evening and then a bit of a bump up. The rest of the province seeing our overnight lows in through the overnight and into the early morning hours of tomorrow. And again, look at this very light band of flurries, bit of some icing likely mixing in here, some ice pellets, some patchy freezing rain, and then eventually over to some showers. And this will kind of sail from southwest to northeast throughout the day. So moving into the Halifax area throughout the morning, the Valley, the the Valley and into the Hants County area, Colchester, Cumberland, then up towards the Northumberland shore into the afternoon and evening. So if you are traveling tomorrow, I'm not expecting that this to be, because the precipitation will be so light, a right home event, but certainly one that we're going to have to keep an eye on throughout the day if you are traveling. Things could get slick with those icy conditions coming through from southwest to northeast, as we said, and note the temperatures bumping up into the afternoon here. We are going to be seeing quiet conditions for Cape Breton. That mess arriving for tomorrow evening for you folks. Temperatures 1 to 3 degrees on the plus side, 1 to 3 for the eastern parts of the mainland and into central as well. Temperatures bumping up as mild as 4 by around this time tomorrow in the downtown area down towards the peninsula. And it's going to take some time for that warmer air to push in across the rest of the mainland. Note temperatures here across the west as well will be bumping up 5-6 degrees by the end of the day. 11, 12, 13 degrees for Wednesday. Yes, it's going to be that warm. And as we walk you through this timeline, there's the showers that are going to come in on Wednesday afternoon, then a bit of a lull, and then that next line of rain and wind will come in on Thursday. And you can see it is generally going to be a shot of about 10 to 20 millimeters. So not a huge shot of rain. The winds, widespread gusts 60, 70, and down here in the south and west could see some gusts 90 plus. Everywhere else, also some coastal gusts to 90 plus possible in the northeast. This is going to be Wednesday night, Thursday morning. Potential for some outages with this. And with after all that rain, temperatures then drop below the freezing mark Thursday night into Friday morning. And staying at and below the freezing mark into the weekend. So stock up on the salt and sand.
Good advice.
Okay, thanks Ryan.
Thank you.
Coming up, license holders in the Atlantic Elvery Fishery react to new quotas imposed by DFO for the 2025 season. DFO's decision to redistribute roughly 80% of the commercial Elver quota. The plan is to give an additional 50% of the quota to First Nations and about 27% to employees of license holders. Stanley King runs Atlantic Elver Fishery, one of those license holders who was losing quota to his employees. Ottawa says this is the fairer way to run the fishery. Why do you disagree with that?
Well, unfortunately, Ottawa doesn't know this fishery at all. We've tried to educate them, but they are unwilling to learn. This fishery is well-distributed benefits, and we've asked the government to do an economic analysis to show that, and they refuse. They think they're playing Robin Hood, and unfortunately, that's just not the case. They're actually causing a lot of chaos, and the people that they're supposed to be helping in their minds are actually quite upset about this. It's going to increase their risk dramatically and lower their pay. So nobody's happy.
Yeah, and they say the government's saying they want to disperse the wealth more, or disperse the fishery more. Why what they plan to do? Why will that not work, do you think?
Well, they're trying to mimic the main system, which they went down to inspect last year. And although the main system has some good qualities, it's not a model for us to follow to the letter. We've got a great system here that has ensured the safety of fishers for the last 30 years. We have 200 participants every year on the commercial side that benefit greatly from the fishery, as well as the rural communities in Nova Scotia. And we're losing all of that.
So what do you stand to lose yourself as someone who's running this company?
Well, I mean, how can a company survive with a 90% reduction in its quota, an expropriation? So we're basically crippled, as are all the other license holders. We will not be able to hire people back on. This is going to be a very, very tumultuous time in the industry, and really for no reason. There is a standard path that the government is supposed to follow when redistributing fishing quota. It's called willing buyer, willing seller. And there is a huge pot of money just sitting there, Marshall money, waiting for this type of opportunity to be used. And the government is just looking at us saying, you're a small industry, we can push you around, we don't have to actually pay, we're just going to take it, which is a completely dangerous premise for Canada in general, but for business and the other fisheries. I want other fisheries to look at this and say, wow, you know, that could be us next. And most likely it will be, because this is the second time DFO has done this to small fisheries in the recent past.
You alluded to it there, but there's no compensation for you or the other license holders, is there?
No, it's a straight expropriation of anywhere between 80 and 90% of our fishing businesses. And these are, you know, businesses that have pioneered the industry. There would be no fishery without us. And these are multi-generational, family-run businesses that provide excellent paying jobs, upwards of the top 20% of Canadians. That type of salary. And the government just refuses to look under the covers to see what they're doing is a huge misstep.
So is at least part of it that DFO is trying to take the fishery out of the company's hands, and maybe they think companies are making too much money, I don't know, and put it in the hands of the fishermen?
Well, that's what they say, Tom, but unfortunately it's just not the case. Although you don't need a boat for this fishing industry, you need incredible amount of infrastructure, multi-million-dollar holding facilities and transport trucks to ensure that the fish stay alive, because dead fish are worthless in this industry. So they have put a lot of risk on the backs of these new license holders, because they don't have that expertise and they don't have that infrastructure, and that's not something that's going to be easily transferred.
And presumably fishermen will have to market their own catch now?
Absolutely, but except there is very little market. And so in the last 5 years, the province of Nova Scotia reports there's only been 3 buyers of Elvers in 5 years. So if you aren't located next to somebody who's willing to buy your fish, you are not going to have a buyer. And with small amounts of quota, you're not going to get a very good price. So unfortunately, they've done a real disservice to the people that they're trying to help, but they will not listen to the advocacy of the people that know the business the best, which are the people that created it, us.
Do you think that there will be, with these changes, less violence in the fishery?
No, absolutely not. I think there's actually going to exacerbate the situation. DFO has shown that they are either incapable or unwilling to enforce this fishery with 12 license holders. So imagine how they're going to do that with 162 now, which is the proposed number. They are not going to be able to keep the lid on this fishery. And with so many competing interests now, there are going to be fist fights on the river. People are going to be seriously hurt, potentially even die. And Maine sees this in their system as well, because there's just too many independent factors. And that's one of the places where having a license holder, keeping everybody in check, ensuring safety, really benefits this fishery.
All right, we'll have to leave it there. Stanley King, thank you so much.
Thanks, Tom.
Coming up, Syria is undergoing a seismic shakeup following the ousting of longtime President Bashar al-Assad.
A lawsuit is accusing hip-hop stars Sean Diddy Combs and Jay-Z of sexually assaulting a minor 2 decades ago. Welcome back. The federal government has finally announced the date for the fall economic statement. The budget update will be presented to Parliament on December the 16th, just days before MPs break for the holidays.
But there's word it may include a costly new initiative meant to appease U.S. President-elect Donald Trump before he moves into the White House in January. Ashley Burke has the details.
Up against a major threat from Donald Trump, sources say the Canadian government is now considering spending more than $1 billion to try and appease his concerns.
We're going to be more visible. We're going to deploy the assets, the people that we need at the border.
I'm a big believer in tariffs. I think tariffs.
In an NBC interview that aired Sunday, Trump said he told Prime Minister Justin Trudeau at this recent Mar-a-Lago dinner to close up his border, to curb drugs going into the U.S. or else.
If it doesn't stop, I'm going to put tariffs on your country at about 25%.
25% tariffs on everything going to the United States would be devastating for the Canadian economy.
Sources tell Radio-Canada and CBC News the Liberal government's now looking at spending money on the problem, including to make changes to its immigration policy to address Trump's concern about migrants crossing the border and to guard against a possible increase of migrants to Canada if Trump goes ahead with his plan to deport millions of undocumented immigrants.
We will, of course, as we did 8 years ago, respond to unfair tariffs in a number of ways, and we're still looking at the right ways to respond.
Last month, the public safety minister said he plans to beef up border security.
In terms of acquiring new technologies, drones, helicopters, additional human resources.
Some opposition MPs say it's time.
Well, we wish they should have done that a long time ago.
Security at the border is really important.
Cabinet ministers dealing with U.S. relations are meeting to discuss the plans at the border tonight. Whatever the government decides could be part of the fall economic statement on Monday. Ashley Burke, CBC News, Ottawa.
A new reality is settling over Syria. The old iron-fisted regime is gone. But what will replace it remains unknown. As the international community waits to see what happens, the citizens of Syria are trying to put their lives back together after more than a decade of civil war. The CBC's Chris Brown reports.
On the first day of Syria's new start, the notorious Sednaya prison that epitomized the worst of Bashar al-Assad's regime was the scene of desperate searches. In 2014, they told me then that my brother was dead and not to come back, she said. But anguished families clung to faint hope of rumors of secret rooms where their loved ones might have survived. On Sunday, a mob freed those who were caged in tiny, filthy cells. The White Helmets humanitarian workers have helped with the ongoing search, but a volunteer member says sadly for those families, they have found no further prisoners.
The team are working on digging and cracking the walls. Maybe they have something to see and listen. But until now, we don't have proof that they are alive and there are people inside.
In the capital, after the initial euphoria, bakeries reopened. There were lines for fuel and for many also a strange new sense of freedom. It's been 50 years during which we couldn't speak nor express ourselves, he said. In the streets, rebels with guns, many of whom used to support al-Qaeda, mixed with civilians with few reports of trouble. Abu Muhammad al-Jalani, the commander whose assault on Aleppo 12 days ago triggered the beginning of Assad's demise, reportedly appointed interim officials to run the government. Now we need to be patient, said this man. The country's not going to get better immediately. In an ominous sign, there's been fighting between Turkish-backed forces and U.S.-backed Kurds, underscoring the unity challenges facing Syria's new rulers. Israeli troops also seized and are now occupying Syrian territory in the Golan Heights, violating a long-standing ceasefire agreement. Israel's government says the move will protect it from hostile forces. Britain's government is one of the first to say it's considering delisting al-Jalani's Hayat Tahrir al-Sham as a terror group, possibly removing a key obstacle for dealing with the new Syrian administration. A cabinet minister says the decision will be based on how the group behaves. Chris Brown, CBC News, London.
Meanwhile, the Kremlin is confirming Russia has granted asylum to the ousted Syrian president and his family. We get the latest on that, plus international reaction from the CBC's Crystal Gamansing in London.
Kremlin spokesperson Dmitry Peskov said the decision to grant asylum to Bashar al-Assad came from the very top, Russian President Vladimir Putin. Peskov, however, would not say when he and his family arrived in Moscow. It's also unclear if they all plan to stay there. Asma al-Assad, the wife of Bashar, is a British citizen. She has a British passport and could travel to the UK. Now, Putin was an ally of Assad, supporting his suppression of anyone who challenged the regime during the 13-year civil war. Moscow also helped broker a ceasefire in 2020, which led to a freeze in the conflict. In Geneva, the UN's High Commissioner for Human Rights, Volker Turk, said he sees an opportunity for a fair transition of power and called for accountability.
It is imperative that all evidence be collected and preserved meticulously for future use. Reform of the security apparatus will be key. This transition must also ensure that the tragedy of missing people is addressed.
More than 100,000 people have been disappeared during the civil war, with more than 14 million driven from their homes. Many Syrians want to go back home. In neighboring countries, including Lebanon and Turkey, lines formed at border crossings. Turkey's foreign minister said the country will ensure the voluntary and safe return of Syrians, and that Turkey will help with the reconstruction of Syria. Leaders here in the UK, Germany, US, and Canada, to name just a few, have all highlighted the potential for lives of all Syrians to improve. Crystal Gamansing, CBC News, London.
A Haitian gang leader is accused of massacring several older people over suspicions of witchcraft after his son fell ill and died.
Just this past weekend, at least 184 people were killed in violence orchestrated by the leader of a powerful gang in the Haitian capital, Port-au-Prince. These latest killings bring the death toll just this year in Haiti to a staggering 5,000 people.
Reports of the latest violence come from a key port area under the accused gang leader's control. He's said to have sought his priest's advice after his child fell severely ill. According to reports, his gunmen rounded up and killed community leaders along with others who tried to help the victims. Haiti's national police have been overwhelmed by widespread and ongoing violence. Western countries, including Canada, have been calling for a global response to deal with gangs in Haiti.
Police in the U.S. have made an arrest in connection with the killing of the CEO of a health insurance company. The executive was shot to death on a Manhattan street 5 days ago. Earlier today, police arrested 26-year-old suspect in Altoona, Pennsylvania.
Officers recovered a firearm on his person, as well as a suppressor, both consistent with the weapon used in the murder.
The suspect has been identified as Luigi Mangione. An employee at an Altoona McDonald's called police. The worker thought he recognized the suspects from photos released by police. And along with the gun, Mangione was carrying a number of fake IDs, a U.S. passport, and a handwritten manifesto. The suspect is facing gun charges in Pennsylvania, and officials from New York will be questioning him there.
Hip-hop mogul Jay-Z is vehemently denying explosive new allegations that he sexually assaulted an underage girl more than 2 decades ago. He's calling it an extortion attempt. The accusation against Jay-Z was made in a lawsuit filed yesterday, which initially listed only his longtime friend and collaborator, Sean Diddy Combs, as the sole defendant. The accuser, a woman who's now in her 30s, says it happened during an MTV Awards after party in the year 2000. The CBC's Angie Seth has the details.
The accuser in this latest lawsuit, who was only 13 at the time of the alleged assault, is only being identified as Jane Doe. Now, Jane Doe says, this is according to the lawsuit, she was driven to the party by a driver who worked for Combs. She says that when she arrived at the party, she had to sign a document which she assumed was an NDA, and says when she arrived, she was also given a drink that made her feel uncomfortable. It made her feel woozy, so she went into another room to lie down. She says a short time later, Combs, along with Jay-Z, whose real name is Sean Carter, and an unnamed woman entered the room. The accuser then says that is when the alleged rape took place by both Carter and Combs, the unnamed woman remaining in the room during the alleged assault. Now, the lawsuit was filed on Sunday, and along with it, Carter received a letter from the plaintiff's lawyer requesting mediation. In response, however, Carter filed his own lawsuit against the accuser's attorney. He also released a statement on Rock Nation denying all the allegations. And the statement continues to read in part, "My lawyer received a blackmail attempt called a demand letter from a lawyer named Tony Busby. What he calculated was the nature of these allegations, and the public scrutiny would make me want to settle." Interesting to note about the statement from Carter is he never directly refers to the accuser, but instead focuses on the lawyer, Tony Busby, and his alleged intentions. Now, Tony Busby responding to Carter in a statement on X, and his statement reads in part, "We will let the filing speak for itself and will litigate the facts in court, not in the media." Now, there has been a flurry of reaction online around this. Carter, of course, being the first big celebrity to be looped in with the Sean Diddy Combs case. In the meantime, Combs, who is accused of kidnapping, drugging, and coercing women into performing sexual acts, facing 10 lawsuits. There are at least 27 accusers. He remains in Brooklyn at the Metropolitan Detention Center. He's been denied bail 3 times by a judge who ruled that he cannot be trusted due to, quote, evidence supporting serious risk of witness tampering. His trial is set to begin next year, May 5th, 2025. Combs denies all of the allegations. Angie Seth, CBC News, Toronto.
It started in March of 2023 and ended last night in Vancouver. We're talking about Taylor Swift's Eras Tour, of course. More than 150 performances on 5 continents and a record breaker in terms of attendance and profit. Business reporter Scott Peterson has more.
The world might never see another tour like this one. This is one for the record books for a lot of different metrics, also making Taylor Swift a billionaire as well. But let's take a look at some of the numbers from the Eras Tour and how much it garnered. A lot of people think this is beyond concert revenue. It's almost in the stratosphere of an Olympics or the Stanley Cup coming to the world. Take a look at some of these numbers. Over 10 million people attended the concerts around the world. And for the concert itself, this is interesting. The average price that the concert garnered was $204, the average price. Not the astronomical numbers that we like to talk about, the thousands of dollars for those tickets. All that profit went to Ticketmaster, Live Nation, or StubHub. $2.2 billion still is the revenue that these concerts garnered. That is a world record, beating Coldplay by double. Coldplay had 156 shows with their Music of the Spheres. Also, Forbes estimates that Taylor Swift is now a billionaire, estimating her net worth at about $1.6 billion. No doubt a deserved rest, not retirement, not likely, but a deserved rest after all those shows. Scott Peterson, CBC News, Toronto.
Hundreds of Newfoundlanders clad in straw hats, wigs, and festive costumes marched through Boying Park in St. John's this weekend for the annual Mummers Festival.
Mummering is a unique Christmas tradition in Newfoundland and Labrador. The CBC's Julia Israel dropped by to find out more.
Hark, what's the noise? Celebrate a porch door. And you guess Mummers, there's plenty of.
No way, this is your first Mummers Parade. Oh my goodness, you're going to have a fun day today. It's a tradition here in Newfoundland. Every year people are going around door to door dressed up in the smaller community, knocking on the door, and the owners have to guess who they are. And if they don't, well, give them a drink and on to the next house. So although we're here today, we're celebrating here in the Boying Park.
We're going to start by making some noise!
So we are having our rig up right now, so it's where you put on any sort of clothing, disguise yourself. We have some pants at the bottom all the way to the face coverings at the top. But yeah, people are welcome to drop down, take any clothes that they want, throw it on for the parade, and yeah, rig up and get ready and come join us.
What is the attire? Explain me the look.
It's just a bit of this and a bit of that. Yeah. You had to have the pillowcase, and everything else was just decided upon in the last couple of hours.
So this is Nan, and Nan is
Today she's going around, she's getting the donations for the Mummers Festival so we can continue doing our fun things.
How come you're not dressed up yet?
Maybe I should.
You should. So first thing I picked up was a skirt.
Is this for the arms? What's going on?
Set the arms. Oh.
Right over the neck.
Right there.
Ah.
All right. The traditional mummer wear. I'm so
And your
excited.
hat.
Excellent.
And that's your disguise.
And that's it.
In 3, 2, 1. Any mummers allowed in?
Canada's main stock index moved lower today, led by losses in technology and utility stocks, while U.S. markets were also down. Here's a look at the numbers as we head to break.
Whether you're just waking up or you're on your way to work, we're here bringing you compelling stories from across the province.
And keeping you up to date with the latest in news, weather, sports, and traffic.
I'm Portia Clark.
And I'm Matt Brand.
Join us for Information Morning for the Mainland, weekdays on CBC Radio.
All right, up and down we go with the temperatures in Nova Scotia.
What's going to happen to the inflatable ornaments out on the lawns?
Yeah, good question.
That's a very good point, actually, because, maybe some folks didn't have them put up the last time we had the big push of wind. This one definitely will send the reindeer flying, even if Santa's not attached. So definitely make sure that you deflate those before Wednesday night kicks in. Great point, Amy. Have a look at the viewer picture of the day. And this one, we're going to zoom to Guysborough County and a beautiful shot here. This is Tor Bay.
Oh, isn't that lovely? Very nice. Very still water.
Pool of blue there, nice.
Trish says, no winter here.
She's right.
Yeah. Thanks to Trish for sharing. Ryan's picks at cbc.ca. So let's run you through the timeline of this. Again, just some light precipitation tracking in with this frontal boundary. So we'll see some flurries mixing to some patchy freezing rain, ice pellets mixing over to showers from southwest to northeast throughout the day tomorrow. Things could be a little icy in spots if you're traveling, so a heads up on that. Not a lot of precipitation, but enough to be problematic. So then we see temperatures actually rising Tuesday night into Wednesday. Wednesday's temperatures are going to be into the double digits, and we'll see some showers, but for the most part, it looks like the rain's going to be New Brunswick bound. Perhaps the Bay of Fundy getting into some heavier bounds of rain, as well as Yarmouth. That all lifts to the north. Those southerly winds on the increase, that's when they will be strongest for Wednesday night into Thursday, and there's that line of rain. Behind that line, the temperatures will plummet. 10 to 20 millimeters looking set about that range anyway for Nova Scotia. More set for New Brunswick. Let's time out those winds one more time. So there's Wednesday night, and those winds picking up, got 60, 70, 80, and we'll direct your attention to the Tri-County area down towards Yarmouth and Digby. That's going to be, I think, our best chance of getting near warning criteria winds, but we also could see it along the Northumberland shore and even along the Atlantic coastline. I mean, it's going to be really gusting, so a heads up on that Wednesday night into Thursday morning. And as we said, those temperatures will be dropping below the freezing mark by Friday as all that water freezes up again.
Should be interesting. All right, a village in coastal New Brunswick has set up 2 different Christmas trees to honor its fishing heritage for the holidays.
Alma has had a lobster trap tree since 2019, but the mayor, Bob Rochon, says this year council decided to decorate an actual tree with fishing gear instead. The town says there were some concerns about whether the lobster trap tree design was safe, not to mention the condition of the old traps.
But residents also banded together to construct their own tree out of lobster traps, which is located at the wharf. The town says both trees symbolize how important the fishing industry is in the small community.
Can't have enough.
Nope.
All right, that's it for us tonight. Thanks so much for watching. We'll see you next time.
Good night.
Good night.